welcome you to the July 6, 2022 City Council meeting. Roll call of officers. My left, Dee Cragen, Jason Upchurch. Now, Heather Newsom was involved in an accident, a rollover accident, with a side-by-side on Monday night. She had surgery, 10 hours of surgery yesterday. She had broken disc in her back, got staples in her head. She's come out of it okay. She's got feelings in her arms and her legs, which is a good sign. So, Caleb has a card up here to sign that he's going to give her. I'm going to give to her. So.
Okay.
She will not join us by phone. She is.
Yeah, well, she shouldn't.
Hang
up on her if she does.
Yeah.
We need to excuse Heather.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
You want to do it right now?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
A motion to excuse Heather Newsom.
I'll second.
7
All in favor?
o'clock.
Yes.
Naomi?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Aye.
Okay, Caleb Stapp, City Director, Community Service Director, Roger Krieger, City Attorney, Chuck Zimmerman, and last but not least, Debbie Cragen, City Clerk Treasurer. So, tonight's invocation will be by Tim White from the Tri-County Christian Center. You have the floor, Tim.
Right. So I want to invite everybody to our Church in the Park, Southern Day weekend, 10 o'clock at Mix Park on that great Sunday. So our 10th year, so you're all welcome. And bring a chair and a dish to share because it's the largest potluck you've ever been to. So Father, we thank you for this beautiful town and these wonderful people that you've blessed us to be with. And thank you for the leadership of this town and the workers, the city team. I pray your hand of blessing upon each one, of provision, protection, and strength. And I pray for wisdom in the decisions that need to be made here. I also pray for a spirit of cooperation among our community. There's problems, we work them out. And this would be a place that people will continue to want to live like they do. And we pray your blessing upon this time in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Okay, next up, item 4, approval of agenda.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Naomi?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 5, approval of June 15th, 2022 regular council meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm waiting on you.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Item 6, new business. Letter A, agreement between the City of Deer Park and the Deer Park Chamber of Commerce 2022. We're going to have our city attorney speak on this. And Chuck, we have Billy Costello, Vice President, with us. He's over there next to Jim.
This is a replacement agreement for the existing agreement because the chamber is going to move back into City Hall. And the rest of the terms of the agreement are just like they've always been. It's been approved by the chamber already, and it just needs the council's approval in order to move forward. The amount of the contribution by the city to the chamber will remain at $500 for the services that the chamber provides for the city that are related to generating tourism, and all those funds are paid from the lodging tax, which is generated by the tourism tax. So be happy to answer any questions that council might have concerning this. But again, it's nothing, it's new because the other one was going to expire in a few months anyway, and this agreement runs through December 31 of 23. So
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any comments by the council?
Are they moving into the basement or outside?
Temporarily, they're going to move back here into the conference room until we get it cleared out down there and they can paint and redo what they need to do.
okay.
There's on the second page there's a welcome to Deer Park meter board sign. Is that a sign we currently have? Or
It's by Parkway, it's an electronic sign, by Parkway RV.
Okay, yep.
That's the one.
Okay.
Any more? All in favor?
Aye.
Naomi?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. Next up, item B, supplemental agreement number 2, Task Force Order 2019-08, Crawford and Colville Roundabout and North Colville Reconstruction, JUB Engineers. Roger, would you fill us in on it, please?
Yeah, I mean, we're finally getting the paperwork, trying to get it wrapped up for the Crawford and Colville project that's basically done. And one of the tasks, and of all this words, is really the very first page of the actual description of what's going on. There's a paragraph there that basically says we added 65 working days to the original contract due to supply chain issues that the contractor had, some pavement issues they had to replace, they couldn't get concrete, a series of things. And obviously when you add those contract days, we're not paying the contractor anymore, but we have the project management side of it with the inspector out here working with them and all those kinds of things to get that work still done and track the paper trail to keep WashDOT happy. Basically, these 65 contract days are being added. They're all reimbursable at 90%. So it took a while to get the grant agencies to get signed off on it as well. So that's why it's kind of a little late getting here. But we need your approval so that we can then wrap up the project. We'll get invoiced, Debbie can get the final closeout, and we can get that project behind us. But we're still playing with the paper trail on that project because of things like this. So that's what it's for. It's really, there's lots of words here, lots of pages, but it's one paragraph that added 65 days. That's already been done.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments by the council?
When we do a contract like that with the people who are doing the work, are there any penalties for them not completing on time, or are there any not benefits, but
Liquidated damages is the word you're asking.
Okay.
There are things in the contracts for that. The unfortunate thing is that the amount of money you can really get out of it doesn't total enough for the cost of his time to get the money out of it.
Plus, there's another limitation. Liquidated damages are disfavored in law, but that's the only way that we can. It's a number that's calculated that's thrown in as a penalty, but that's really what it is. If we had a true penalty, if there was a real disadvantage, it's like if we were obligated on the other end of the agreement to have some space available to a tenant, for example, that we were going to share the space with, then we would have real damages because we wouldn't be able to provide that space timely in accordance with another agreement, and then we could prove those actual damages instead of liquidated damages. So most of the time, when we're dealing with things like projects of this nature, it's really not time critical, except sometimes from a co-funding source. We might have an obligation to spend the funds and document the expenditure of the funds with the agency that gave the money to us, but all those are being waived now. Any funding agency is not holding the recipient's feet to the fire, to the extent any is involved. As I understand it, most of them have been very flexible because there are so many supply chain issues now.
Sure.
Still.
It's hard because you still have the administration cost of dealing with it and accounting for all those days. And thankfully, we didn't use the amount of money we had in the grant. So we have the money available. Some of the contract work was less quantity, so it was less to them. So in essence, it's coming out of what we had contracted for them going to here. So, and WashDOT's accepted that and they understand the issue. So we had them involved all the way along. That's why we got it to here. So.
Sure.
And the other thing that happens, if you take a hard line on these things and it gets out that that's where you are as a community, then when you put projects like this out to bid, guess what? You're going to have fewer interested in bidding, and the bids will be higher because they're going to look at the nature that you how you treat your contractual arrangements.
On some of those projects, then, should we set aside some money in case we have, or is it easily
We probably
covered?
wouldn't be here if we didn't have the grant dollars to pay it.
Right.
Because the street fund doesn't have the money to pay it. Thankfully, you only have to come up with 10%.
Only two guaranteed winners if you get into litigation on a contract dispute. Me and the lawyer for the other side.
Okay. there too, Wes.
That's a good too. Guaranteed.
Any more questions by the council? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Naomi?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Just once is good.
She voted twice on that.
Motion carried. Item 7, old business. Letter A, approval of FAA grant agreement for AIP project number 3-53-022-031-2022. The airport pavement preservation project in the subject is that the subject of the grant agreement was approved for construction by CR Contracting for the dollar amount of $442,000, $312.78 at the May 4th, 2022 council meeting. And this is the project funding. Daryl, you just want to highlight on that?
Sure. So the FAA grant has been approved and come through for the mayor and Mr. Zimmerman's signatures. This is a 90% grant from the FAA. I believe it was the last meeting you approved the WashDOT 5% matching funds. And it should be a good project. Hopefully we can get started soon.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
We don't need action on it. It's already been approved on May 4th.
No, you need, what was approved on May 4th was the contract with the contractor. We do need approval of acceptance of the grant so we can pay the contractor.
So you still need the
You need a
motion?
motion
Okay.
to approve the grant.
Okay, I'm making a motion to approve the grant agreement and authorize the mayor and the city staff to sign the agreement and all related documents.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments by the council? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Naomi?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, item B, discussion and possible action concerning increasing the size of city council from the present 5 days, 5 members to 7 members. And Chuck, would you start us off on that?
Should be happy to, Your Honor. The people in the audience, if you were here at the last meeting, I wasn't present, but if you were at the last meeting, you probably heard discussion about this. Since the last meeting, Caleb has sent me an email outlining, I thought, very well, a good question, which is, how do we get, paraphrasing essentially, is there a way to create the 2 council seats but not fill them so that the public fills them at an election so somebody doesn't get an advantage by being the incumbent that's appointed by the council? I think that's more or less what, that's close to what it was. Each council member, and I hope Naomi has it, has a copy of my response to that, where I outlined a lot of different things that have to do with, moving from 5 to 7 and the timing on that. And at the end of the day, if the desire is to do that, then there's a timing issue with that you would want to delay as far as you could, close enough to where the ordinance change would be effective before the filing date, which is likely in May of 2023. That's probably the earliest that this would happen, that this would go on the ballot. It may be that coincides with when you're forced to do it anyway, because your population is inching up ever so close to the 5,000. One of the things that the mayor, wanted me to talk about was, if you're going to look at this, and this is not the first time that I've done this, I've actually helped a city go from 5 to 7 council members when they were in the situation that Deer Park is in, when you're between 2,500 and 5,000. The council at any time has the option by ordinance to move the council from 5 to 7 members and then fill those seats by appointment, and then those seats would then be on the next municipal election to fill the remainder of those unexpired terms, for both those 2 seats. Not complicated, just pretty straightforward, actually. Things to think about if you want to move from 5 members to 7 members. One of the things to think about is it time to consider, as a part of that, do you want to do districting? And the reason you want to consider that now is right now you have 5 council members, and I don't have a map that shows where all 5 live, but they probably all don't live in the same district, but maybe 2 or 3 of them live close to one another. And you know, maybe the next two positions that come open might live close to those people as well. And so if you ever do get to districting, you'll end up much like the city of Wenatchee recently did. They had 3 people that were on the council living in the same district when they went to districts. So one of them had to run at large, you know, or 2 of them ran against each other, and you lose some good people and opportunity there. If you create, if you consider districting, if that's something you want to do, and there's pluses and minuses about that. But if you consider the timing on it, I mean, I would encourage you that if you're really thinking about going to 7, to seriously consider that, because then you'll have 2 positions that you could create into district positions where nobody's represented right now. So then the people who would come forward would be from those areas. Now, you know, districting, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff about that you can, you know, the pro is the whole community is represented. The negative part, just overall, just glossing over it, is people are elected from that district and they only are concerned about that area. I mean, I don't know if I buy into that, but they tend to be, you know, focused on that. But as far as the process here, I think I touched on it. It's May of 23 is when you want to do it if your aim is to try to get the council moved to a position where adding additional council members, if you desire to do that, occurs, because that's when you would, if you did have to appoint somebody, and I don't think you would have to, because I've had other clients have the same thing happen. People quit the council, and rather than try to pick one winner over another and give them an advantage in the election, they just let it sit empty. One of the disadvantages to doing it too soon and leaving them sit empty, the county commissioners could fill it after 90 days. I doubt that they would. And then after that, the county commissioners are, if they don't fill it, are supposed to petition the governor to fill it after 180 days. Well, by then we would have the election. But one of the issues associated with just doing this now and then waiting until May of 23 for those seats to be filled is now a quorum of the council is 4. So tonight, everything that you wanted to do by way of passing an ordinance or paying money would take 4 votes, which luckily we have 4 people. If you showed up with only 3 people, you wouldn't have a quorum, you wouldn't be permitted to have a meeting. So that's just another consideration for that. I know, just to give you the, if you, from the other side of the perspective, you have 5 council members, it seems to work, you know. Having 7 council members, nobody doesn't, I mean, that's great, you know, 2 more people, you know, probably gonna have to redo some of this up here because it'd be a little tight. That's not the end of the world, it's been done before. You're gonna have to do it at some point. I've heard is it proactive or not to do it or not do it? I don't know. I mean, it's going to happen. You're going to evolve to that level. Do you want to do it? The city that I'm thinking of that I helped do it, they still aren't at 5,000 and they have 7 council members. And it seems to work fine for them. 5 work just as well. So you're paying council members now, I think it's $400 a month, is that right? So it's $800 a month. I mean, that's, if we're going to talk about those types of numbers, that's not, I mean, it's real money to a family's budget, but I don't know that it's real money, it's significant money overall here. But, another one last thing, that the bigger the organization, I've been on a number of volunteer boards, and the larger the board, the greater the apathy potential. Where you have a large board, oftentimes because it's fundraising based, because the more people you have out with their tentacles in the communities, the better chance you have of generating more revenue. There's more potential for people to show up at a meeting and then crack open the council packet, because when you have 7, they can rely on the other 6. When you have 5, sure, you can rely on the other 4, but at some point you're going to have to step up and be accounted for it. Thankfully, this particular client, I've never seen that happen with any member of the current or previous elected officials here. So that's a good thing. And I'm not suggesting that it would occur, but I see these things. So happy to answer any, questions. There's no magic, one way or the other. There isn't a right or a wrong on this. You're gonna get there. It's just a matter of whether you pick to do it yourself or you just kind of wait and let it happen. So.
Comments by council?
What's our official population, Roger?
4670.
4 years, we'll hit 5,000. 4 years, we'll hit 5,000, approximately.
Yeah, and that's an OFM number. It's about 100 people a year. Last year was more. It's all based on housing starts, and so in 2021 we had way more houses and so forth. So, and it's a weird cycle. It's April to April, so it's not a perfect world, but yeah. So it's 100-ish a year the last 3 years.
So you're probably looking at either 25 or 27 for the mandate.
Yeah.
2025 or 2027.
Caleb?
I'm a fan of going ahead and doing it now. I think it is going to happen at some point, so I'm a fan of going ahead and doing it on purpose. I'm not excited about the idea of districting because I'm a little concerned about having somebody to run to represent each district. Recently, we've had good interest in council positions, but that's a fairly new phenomenon. I mean, as recently as 4 years ago, or 2 years ago when I ran, there was one seat that was running and contested. So if there hadn't been the right person in that district, we would have had an issue. So that's part of the discussion. I feel like it needs to wait until much further down the road. Once population is much higher. For me, I see the advantage of the last year, Tim, you've been leading us to be more focused on doing some work in task forces and some committees and groups. And I've seen that really escalate the amount of effort that I'm giving and the work that I'm doing. And I know that other council members are stepping up to put in more time and energy in specific projects. And that's one real benefit of having 7 people is as we get those people onboarded and used to the position, and then 6-12 months down the road, they're able to really contribute. That's a huge benefit of having more people involved to help take on some of those projects and get things done. So for me, I would still be in favor of just going ahead and doing it now, appointing some of the folks that applied before. We had 9 other applicants, and there may be 1 or 2 more now at this point, now that they've heard about it a month or 2 ago and had time to think about it. So for me, I would go ahead and do it now, but I don't know where everybody else stands.
Well, I'm going to make a motion.
Naomi, do you have any comments on that?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Make a motion to retain the current form of government with 5 council members because it's not broken and doesn't need fixing, and until the city reaches the official 5,000 population mark.
Do we have a second? Naomi, do you second that?
Yeah, I do. I second that.
Okay, so on this, Chuck, I get to break the tie, don't I?
Yeah, because it's just a maintenance of a
Right,
status
it's
quo.
not a monetary.
It's not passing an ordinance.
Well, is your motion just to keep it what it is?
Until 5,000.
Okay.
And keep it till 5,000.
Yeah,
Official.
but even though the motion is that, someone else could make a motion later to overturn
To just
that.
go, so, that's what I wasn't sure.
It's just, to put a stop to it right now so we can get on with the city business. It's,
And you
if it
mentioned,
isn't broken, don't mess with it.
No, all I'm referring to is at the end of your motion, it's part of your motion, you said, until the city reaches 5,000.
Official 5,000.
Official 5,000 count. I think that motion can pass that way, but I think that you could have a later motion 3 months from now that could say,
You could just
they could
overturn the motion.
it could overturn that motion.
You want me to put
Yes.
it into perpetuity?
I With all due respect, I think the more proper motion is to stop before you get to that. Just say that that your motion is to retain the current form of government with a 5-member council, period. I don't think that adding the until the population's 5,000 does any, it doesn't do any good. because-
Okay.
Yeah, if that's okay with you and okay
That's
with
okay
Naomi,
with me.
you can change it to that.
Is that okay with you, Naomi?
Yep. Yes.
So then, just so everybody's clear then, the motion before the council is to retain the current form of government with a 5-member council. There was a motion by Dee and a second by Naomi.
Question for you. So you mentioned the tie-breaking vote being the mayor because it's not an ordinance. So if this was a motion to move forward and move to 7 members, what would
Then it would, again, because it would, the motion then would be to direct legal counsel to, and would have to see what happens with this motion. Okay, but the motion would be to direct legal counsel to draft the ordinance, which the mayor could break the tie on, but at the end of the day, once the ordinance is presented, the mayor won't be allowed to vote on the passage of the ordinance, so it would take 3 votes of the council to pass that ordinance.
Okay.
That's
great.
If it was something significant, I would discourage the council from, like if it was a 30-page ordinance that we had to draft that was going to take me 15, 20 hours, I would say, you really probably don't want to break that tie that way because we're going to spend all that money and not have it occur.
Sure.
But if it's something as simple as this, I mean, if that were the motion, it doesn't take that much time to put that kind of an ordinance together just to see what happens, because we're missing a council member right now.
Right.
So,
Thanks.
So I have a question. Without the population portion of her motion, what does the motion actually do? We're not already doing anything.
No, all it does is end this discussion for now, and it would have to be brought up again at a later point.
Just ends the discussion so that we can move on with city business.
That's all it does.
Okay.
It's no prohibition. You could bring it up again at the next meeting or 2 meetings from now at some point. Probably best to not bring it up until you have a contingent of 5 council members, though, because it's not going to, unless one of either the motion maker or the seconder were to bring it up because they've changed their mind, So.
No other questions?
Dee, how do you vote? Yes?
Yes.
Jason?
Just ends the discussion for now, so yeah.
Okay. Kevin?
No.
Okay. Motion carried.
I'm assuming Naomi voted yes.
Naomi, you vote yes?
Yes.
So the vote was 3-1, and the mayor was not asked to break the tie.
Correct.
And I would just say that procedurally then, it probably doesn't warrant bringing it back up until you had another council member or it was brought up by one of the people who voted in favor of it on a decision that they would want to change. It just makes sense that we don't have to rehash it, We can get into a big procedural thing, and I don't think it's worth it, in my opinion. But I think that it's a good discussion. It's a very good discussion to have, I think.
Okay, next up, item 8, resolutions. We have any? We have none. Ordinance, we have none. 10, consent agenda. Letter A, approval of voucher claim check numbers 40-359 through 40-405, including EFT debits in the amount of $251,516.07 for the second half of June 2022. Item B is approval of payroll checks number 14-651 through 14-708, including PFML, 941 taxes and health benefits in the amount of $142,651.15 for the month of June 2022.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments by the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Naomi?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 11, council questions, comments, and reports. We will start with you, Dee.
I'm going to be quiet for a while.
Newsom.
So a few things. First of all, there's a neighborhood watch training thing this Saturday, 10 a.m. across the street, 10 to noon. Want to encourage people to come to that and learn more about how to set up neighborhood watch throughout the city of Deer Park. I had mentioned last time that Jake had been working on, with the homeowner at the corner of Crawford and Colville, the haunted house over there, and he actually gave me some architectural plans this week. It sounds like maybe you're still in the works, so it seems like maybe some things are in motion over there to do some upgrading or something. I really enjoyed the fireworks display this year. The citizens over there I thought were very helpful, responsive. There were a lot of out-of-town people there as well. They were very helpful and responsive. I thought the boosters was great. My only thought was, especially for people who are out of town, I didn't know if there's ways to encourage our local businesses to capitalize literally on out-of-towners. So I don't know if there's an opportunity there for the Chamber of Commerce to, promote our 4th of July.
Bob did that. Bob did good.
Oh yeah, I'll bet they did. And then finally, my heart, of course, goes out to Heather, and I hope and pray she has a quick recovery.
Amen.
Naomi, do you have anything?
No, just, I'm praying for Heather and praying that she has a quick recovery.
Thank you. Caleb?
A couple of things. One is I got to talk to some new neighbors who moved into town recently. That's one that one way that I just enjoy promoting the city is helping new folks connect. So that was a blessing. People who are excited to be here, who are excited to participate in community life and do some volunteer work and some different things. So that was good. For the City Hall Task Force, we didn't get any questions from the different firms that were interested, so we didn't have to make any responses. So their final responses are due on the 13th, and then we have about a month to evaluate those and then make a recommendation to the council. So on the 20th, at our next meeting, I have 3 people that have approached me about participating on that task force. If there's anybody else that is interested, we'll need to confirm those appointees on the 20th. So I'll get you some names for that, Mayor Tim. And then we would meet in that task force, if your schedule is available, on Thursday the 21st at 9 a.m. The very next day, just because we need to get moving on that to get some responses to the council. So that's where we're at on that. I, too, appreciated the fireworks celebration, thought that went well. Enjoyed all the private citizens shows as well as I walked back and forth to the high school. And I was really, it gave me a glimpse of who I want to be when I get older. I was sitting next to a guy from Spokane. He was maybe 80, I don't know. He was rather elderly, and he was so excited both for the fireworks display that we were putting on as a city and for all the shows going on behind him, that his sense of wonder and just excitement about it all, I hope I'm that person. And he said thank you to the city because we chatted some, so passing on his thanks to somebody that just wanted to come out and enjoy a nice evening in the chilly wind. So, and yes, I'll set this card over there for Heather, and everyone's welcome to sign it, write a few words, and I'll get that to her.
All right, next up, item 12, interested citizens, oral communications, requests and comments from the audience on unrelated agenda items. Don't raise your hands at once. Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I live on C Street, and our neighborhood on the 4th of July turned into a war zone. And I was not happy. My husband has PTSD. He's a disabled veteran. My dogs were insane. I think the firework display for the community out there is fine. But we were out of control for 2 days over there. The sulfur from the fireworks is, you can't breathe. It's just hazardous to your health over there between the constant, and it went on till 1 o'clock in the morning. I saw your deputies out. They were overwhelmed. I mean, if we're going to have ordinances that people have to follow, then the deputies or somebody has to enforce them. I think the deputies were just simply overwhelmed by what was going on.
One of the problems that we have with that is they have to catch them in the act with the illegal fireworks.
My God, they were in the middle of the street. They were in the middle of the park.
I wasn't though, I didn't.
You know, my issue is that I think it's lovely that the people from Spokane, where it's been outlawed, can come out here and enjoy our fireworks, but it's not good for your citizens. It's not good for our health. It's not good for our well-being. For like the whole weekend, it was a nightmare. I've looked to take my husband and I out of town for the 4th. But why should we have to leave our home? Then I have to worry about some idiot burning it down. You know, we just simply got to address this issue. I'm sorry, but I think it's out of control. It was all around us.
There was actually more private fireworks than what the city display was.
Well, you know, and the interesting thing about it is, I can't even imagine the money they're spending on these fireworks, but I don't care, that's their family budget. But I don't see why I, as a citizen of Deer Park, have to suffer through a weekend of intense offense in my neighborhood. My husband was in Vietnam. You know, for the last 6 years that we've lived in the city, he's like, this is worse than the Tet offenses in Vietnam that I lived through. You've got to consider the veterans and the older citizens in this community. I mean, I understand the 80-year-old man coming out, yay for him, but go to Medical Lake. You know, we have to address this at some point.
Thank you. Mary.
Yeah, Mary Volpe. My heart goes out to Heather and what she's going through, and I don't know if anybody, I don't know the situation, but if donations or something or help with family dinners or anything like that, anything.
At this point, it's unknown.
Okay, but if it does happen, just know.
If it comes to that, I'll let you know.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else? Jimmy.
I'm going to start back with last year on the 4th of July. As we were doing our patrols around town, we were the most hated people in the state of Washington. This year, people received us real well. There were incidents where we told people they couldn't do what they were doing, and they responded to it and ceased that. People were happy all around town, and my dogs, our one dog was shaking all night. But I figured it's a one weekend. Yes, we are having a neighborhood watch meeting, 10 to 12 at the firehouse. There's been a lot of interest in it. A lot of people that want to bring that into their neighborhood. Neighbors, watching out for neighbors, communicating, making the city that much stronger. Also, the second Tuesday of August will be the night out. The official kickoff for advertising that will be at the end of the meeting Saturday. Hazel so graciously volunteered to provide background music for us. I've already got a commitment for McGruff the crime dog to come and take a bite out of crime. And I had a verbal commitment last year from everybody that was out there, including Air One. They will be landing on the one baseball field. I have a meeting on the 20th with a bunch of the teenagers in town. I'm introducing them to Chicago softball, which is a 16-inch clincher softball. And I want them to get enough games to play that maybe they can have a game at the night out on the other baseball diamond. And maybe their parents would come and take part in the night out as well. That's what we're hoping for. If the kids really get into it and we get enough kids, I have deputies that are interested in coming to Deer Park and do a kids against cops game.
That's great.
And that would be a riot. I would like to do that as a double header where we had the kids playing the cops and the cops and the kids mixing up and coming up with two different teams to play another game. So maybe we'll do them 6 innings each. But please put Saturday and August 2nd on your calendars. Come on out, enjoy. On the 4th of July, I almost ran out of junior deputy badges. I even gave one to Naomi because she wanted one, so I gave her one. I did not give her COVID though. I was COVID negative.
No.
But come on out, enjoy, help support the community. And if I can get the pork again, we will have pulled pork sandwiches out there. I do 2 styles. I do a Texas style and I do a Chicago style. Chicago style is on the sweet side. Texas is sweet. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
You say night out.
Yeah, oh, it's the night out against crime. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that was on
Good thing I have my brain with me.
the
sitting
second
next to me.
Saturday of August.
No, the second Tuesday, August the 2nd.
Okay.
It's always, the night out against crime is always the first Tuesday of August.
Jim, what time?
We are going to do that from 6 to 9:30 this year
Okay.
because Air One was a little late coming in. Last year, we had about 90 people that came through our night out against crime over at the sports complex. And Air One was a half an hour late. And Sergeant Armstrong, who's the Air One pilot, said it was the largest group that he landed at all night. And we had a bunch of people that had to leave. And with the smoke and everything, a lot of people apologized that they couldn't get out and be there that wanted to be there. So I hope this year there's no wildfires. Don't do anything stupid to cause a wildfire so that we can have clean air and a good night of fun. Now I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. Richie?
Well, on fireworks, I also live on C Street, different part of C Street, evidently. The weather worked out quite well for keeping fires. But also, what I noticed about fireworks is that, at least on my part of C Street, and then all the way up to the high school, we walked up that, it was remarkably quiet this year. I don't know if the rain scared off a lot of people, but there were a lot of parts of Deer Park that were very, very quiet. Regarding fireworks, whatever decisions that you make, I would ask that you consider the statistics about that. Fireworks, well, it may not seem intuitive, are extremely safe and are a very uncommon cause of fires, statistically. They are in any FEMA report or any national report, they are lumped in at the very bottom with arson and kids playing with matches because they are statistically insignificant otherwise. Fireworks are an American tradition. They are mentioned in our national anthem. They encourage STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Creates curiosity about chemistry. They are an American tradition. If you're looking at the common causes of fires, that would be cooking is at 52%. So if we want to prevent housing fires, we should probably ban cooking. Probably start with my cooking. There are many other causes: railroads, power lines, campfires. Vehicles driving off-road are more likely to cause fires than fireworks. So please consider these facts and details when you're looking at the stats of how many accidents and fireworks happen. It's close to 97% of all fireworks accidents happen because someone was intoxicated. So if you're going to make any rules about fireworks, maybe make a rule about not using fireworks while intoxicated. So I would also request that we look at opening back up the number of days that people can use fireworks. With the fireworks only being used on July 4th, there's a lot of people that want to watch the fireworks show and they want to use their own fireworks. So that means that they are kind of coming together in one area. There are people who would like to be able to use their own fireworks with their family, but they have to work, whether it be working at Yokes or Bi-Mart or wherever else, working for the fire department potentially. Wherever else they're working, they may not have the time off. If you were to say you can only celebrate Christmas on December 25th, there'd be a lot of people that would be upset about that. So why do we restrict July 4th just to the 4th of July?
Because it's a holiday.
Well, Christmas is only the December 25th, so.
Same thing. Thank you.
Yep.
Joe?
Kind of in reference to what that lady was talking about. Probably the volume was down this year. And I realize there's a problem with it's a misdemeanor and it's difficult to enforce. But if a deputy's driving by and sees some kids in Swineyard Park parking lot setting off fireworks and just keeps on driving, and we saw that 2 or 3 times on the 4th of July.
Who was the deputy?
I didn't ask him his name. He was driving. Jim, let me finish.
Okay.
So these same kids later in the evening, we'd seen them once throwing fireworks at another car in the parking lot. So at about 9 or 9:30 that evening, they threw it at a passing car. Unfortunately, the car had their sunroof open. The fireworks landed in the back seat between 2 small children. Small, these were like 2 and 4, and went off. Plus, there was another child in the car. So they kind of turned on to Arnon when this happened. And Dad got out pretty angry and went back to confront the people that did it. So I called it in because I was sure there was going to be a fight. And tried to, there were 3 little kids. They were like Caleb's kids. They were stair-step kids. The oldest one was maybe 5, and Mom was pregnant. And they were pretty traumatized. And they were not traumatized because of the firework. Firework is no different than any other device. They were traumatized by the idiots that were using it and by the fact that there was no attempt at talking to them or enforcing during the day. You say you can't enforce the ordinance, but if somebody's in a park and they're doing that, when they go off, they leave debris. Write them up for littering. You can write them up for littering, can't you?
Yes.
Okay? Something needs to be done, and it might have to be innovative on that level. I was pretty upset watching these 3 little kids, because they were really frightened. Their parents had took them out so they could see the fireworks being set off in Deer Park. They didn't want them to be right here. That's just my comment.
You have a question in the back?
Yeah. I was just going to say I wanted to say thank you, and I actually appreciated the fireworks shows, and I appreciated the freedom to be able to celebrate. And I would agree with the gentleman over here that extending the days, maybe adding one more day surrounding the weekend wouldn't be a bad idea. And I also saw a lot of the citizens being very polite, and if you were driving down the street, they were, they wouldn't set up a firework right in front of you, and they were sweeping up after themselves. I saw a lot of the good sides of it, and it was nice that my wife and I and our little girls were able to just sit out in our front yard and enjoy some of our neighbors' fireworks, because we aren't really able to afford them. And there was about 3 nights in there that we were able to enjoy them, and it was really nice. So.
Thank you. I forgot your Alex, isn't it? Or Anthony, you're up.
Mr. Mayor, Anthony Williams, and then council members. The reason I'm standing up is to really just introduce myself. We've talked before. The music in the park is a really wonderful thing. This year, it's gone a little awry, but I don't want to get into all of that. What I want to say is that hopefully next year, I'll take it over. I'll keep it a little bit objective and everything and really get our local community members involved. But however, the vision for that music in the park is it really is about community. And not a lot of people showed up to some of that music in the park this year. And we want to make it a place where people do want to go and do want to bring their families, young kids, whatever, get vendors out there. And then the vision beyond that with respect to what you feel about the fireworks and with respect to what you feel because you got a show where you couldn't afford a show. And with respect to the people who can afford a show, maybe we can evolve it into a community thing over time. Anyway, all I really wanted to say, my name is Anthony Williams, and I intend on, I've lived here since 2000, never really got involved, been coming to a couple meetings, met some people, and see the way things are going. And I just believe musically, we can impact the environment in a positive way. So I hope to get to meet all of you closer. And with Hazel's help, Hazel's grown so much, both musically and politically. It's a wonder that Tim doesn't hate her. She tried to put him out of office.
I still have a thing for you.
Well, I love you
but
too.
the point is this. The point is that no matter what kind of music, no matter what kind of fireworks, no matter what kind of whatever, there's always going to be issues in a community. So with respect to your concerns, and with respect to yours, and yours even, because you're pro. So maybe we can find a way in our parks and in our community to do something even every weekend. That's not major, but we can promote that. We can get sponsors for that. We can help promote that in a safe way, where we can all not live with sulfur and not wear masks all the time or whatever. Anyway, that was it. I just wanted to introduce myself, Anthony Williams, and that's my goal, is to get this music in the park going for the way of the community, the way it should be. It's about Deer Park and the local surrounding community. So Tim, thank you for your time, Mr. Mayor, and council members, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anthony. Jim? Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Well, just because it's in our, Anthony, sir, just because it's in our park, you said some things went awry.
Yeah, I mean, we could take it aside because I'm not really a political person, you know, but there are views that I have for sure. But yeah, it's not, we're bringing in people that aren't necessarily from the community and we're paying more for that. Well, I don't think the music currently is attached to an entity called Greater Veterans. Who could deny that that's a great cause? It's a great cause. I just don't think the community music should be attached to any entity. It should be community music. And so my idea would be to get the nonprofit be under similar to the Settlers Days, right? They're a nonprofit. So we're under Settler, or not under them, but we're our own nonprofit, albeit whatever, summer music in Deer Park or whatever. So that we're not, the current person running it has brought in people from, say, Nashville or whatever, and then put them up in hotels and everything. It's great. It's good music. But personal dealings have been that he's denied a lot of local musicians their opportunity to come and express themselves.
And businesses. And local businesses, too.
And local businesses, right? He's gotten some sponsors and then also dissed those sponsors. So the reason that I'm speaking out is because it really should be about community. And I do play at Masters. That's my home. I do the open mics, and I admit that. But when it comes to the community and the music, I'm not biased at all. I think everybody deserves an opportunity, especially local artists. And we don't diss our local businesses, and we promote our local businesses, and we don't. Did I answer your question?
I think so.
Okay, I'm sorry. I talked too much.
Helpful. You answered it very appropriate.
But I know also at this moment that that's not really a city council issue. That's really just something that kind of gets granted. But my idea is that if I take this on, and Hazel takes this on with me, that we also form our own board of, say, 5 members, because 5 could be a tiebreaker, right? and we vote on who's gonna play and who's not gonna play, but we make our books transparent to the treasurer, Debbie, right? So, not that you control us or anything, but we should be transparent. We should have a way, maybe we could raise money. You guys were talking about making the facade of the downtown better. Maybe we could raise money and donate money back to the town. Maybe we could donate to fireworks, or maybe we could help in some way that's objective and find a way to really just commingle, coexist in a way that's beneficial for everybody.
Thank you.
Jim, you want to finish?
Please. Joe, I wish you would have called my cell phone. On the 4th of July, you had Deputy Troutman, Deputy Middleboss, and myself that were working with the fireworks. When we met at the end of the night, at just before midnight, none of us had witnessed anything in the parks. Now,
Which of the deputies responded to that?
that was District 14 and 15, and they were doing patrols in Deer Park, but they weren't doing anything with the fireworks. They were looking for trouble, people out of line with alcohol, and they responded to the fight when you called it in.
Yeah.
But if you would have called my cell phone, Deputy Troutman would have been there in a heartbeat, because he was looking for that kind of stuff. The only things that we witnessed that got shut down, and we shut them down, was after the city's fireworks, some kids were firing rockets off of the top of the box over at the football field, the press box. Well, God put an end to that, because just as we were arriving is when it downpoured on them. And they scurried down the backside and were gone before we got out there.
So, but like I say, there's, we saw that 2 or 3 times. If somebody's setting off fireworks, and I know how difficult it is to cite it, but certainly if they're in the city park, or if they're on the street, you mentioned on the street, that's not, it's supposed to be on people's private property. The reason for that, when it was enacted, was because people are more responsible on their own private property.
Exactly.
So while I realize that since the state makes it a misdemeanor, which is stupid, that it's difficult to write up illegal fireworks use, you sure can chase them out of the parks when they're doing it, chase them off the street when they're doing it. If it gets to be a problem, like I said, a cop can always find something to write you up for.
Yeah, and when we seen people do it on the street, we told them to move it, and when we came back around, they were doing them from right by the curb, but it was on their property. So we were cleaning that up, but there was a whole lot going on, and there was a lot of area to cover, you know that.
Yes,
but if
I understand.
I'll bring that up to the command staff next year, that if 14 and 15 are doing what they were doing, if they see that, to put an end to it.
Jim?
But if that happens, then call my cell. Yes.
You guys can discuss that one-on-one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Tim, can I?
Yes, Billy.
Yeah, Billy Gutzel, 114 West 10th Court. I won't say anything about fireworks. I was in England with my family. Got a lot of celebrating going on there.
Say something about fireworks.
So what I would like the city to kind of discuss too is about our agreements with the waste removal company up in Deer Park Meadows. We still don't have.
You have Sunrise.
We have Sunrise, but we don't have any green waste or recyclable options.
That goes, what, 2 more years or
23.
23, that changes.
Okay, yeah, just something to say. And then what Anthony was talking about too, I know the city chooses the nonprofit that they do for the...
We donate, we don't choose.
Donate, okay. I as a business that sponsors that too, after what's happened this year, I would like to be reconsidered as well. It should be a community event about local businesses, local talent, and I'm 100% with you guys, so just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Billy. Brandon.
I want to congratulate the Deer Park Float. They won the Coeur d'Alene's Mayor and City Council Award, which is nice for them to be acknowledged. And I know I got on you guys last time a little bit, and I'm going to do it again now. I know we're going through a housing crisis, and everybody's talking about housing. We have here in Deer Park, we have Habitat for Humanity. And they had their blitz build, and that was the big dedication. And I always hate to be negative, but it is, I think it's a valid criticism. I'm around a lot of politicians, and they always like to put their face out there. I think, especially city council, they're always there. Hoop Fest, Bloomsday, whatever, they're gonna be there. So here I am at Blitzville, we're going through our housing crisis, and I asked the executive with Habitat and with the new homeowners, has anybody from the city been by to, are you gonna tell me you were there?
No, I'm going to tell you I was not notified.
Okay, I will just say this,
Read about it after.
you gotta pay attention to these things, because it doesn't look good. Because I will say, you have a whole community over there, and I'm gonna rip this Band-Aid off real quick, it's gonna make some people upset, but Deer Park is not really well known for being accepting of a lot of people. You do have some diversity there. And I know for a fact they feel left out. And it's a shame that if you want them to come to you and participate, I really want to suggest to you, and I respect Attorney Zimmerman, he said, this is a very engaged council. I'd like to see the other councils he's involved with. I really want to recommend next year, attend Blitzfield, introduce yourself, say who you are. Let those people who think that you have no interest in them or you're embarrassed by them, let them know you care about them. I guarantee you they will invest in your community as well. Because I know we had a former council member that lived there. I don't know what he told you. But I'm just telling you, it was really, strong language, but truthfully embarrassing. I've seen other mayors there. I've seen other council members there from different cities. But in the last several years, not one council member from Deer Park that doesn't live there, or a mayor, and I'm including your predecessor. And I do know you were there at City Hall, and I was just disappointed. I think it was a missed opportunity. So I have one more final thing. Because I have to keep going after community engagement, I have an idea. Why don't we take one council member who is kind of like, and I'm embarrassed to actually have to say this, but why don't we have one council member whose main job, other than the legislative, is to be involved in community events and report on it all the time, whether it's Blitz Build or Winterfest, Settlers Days, Pumpkin Lane, whatever it is, the concerts, promote those events. Have someone do that. I got on you last time for saying, well, I don't have anything to report. That might be an opportunity. I just see some problems here, and I think they can be fixed real quickly if the council is more community engaged. And that includes the mayor as well.
And I was disappointed that they didn't call me. Now, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, when he had the key turning deal, I got notified, and I attended it.
I was there too.
Yes, you were. Dee and I both were there. Probably a year and a half or so, Brandon.
Okay.
But I did not know any of that was going on. Nobody contacted City Hall. Nobody called us. Nobody called me.
I just got to tell you, that's like just telling the teacher the dog ate my homework to me. You are the mayor. You guys are the city council. You've got to look out for what's coming to your town.
I don't have a dog.
Oh, okay.
But no, seriously, I would have attended. I would have glad to attend.
Okay. Well, next year, hopefully you'll show up.
Thank you. We good? Okay. We don't have an executive session. Next up is adjournment. We're adjourned. Thank you.